Hi, everybody. It's Lydia with the Avanti Wellness podcast and YouTube channel. And today I have some really special guests. It's my first time to have two people together on the show. Let me welcome Louise, Fain, and Kim Advent. Hi there.
Hi.
How are y'all doing?
Very well.
Good, thank
Awesome.
you. How are you?
I'm good. It's cold here. We're having like an unseasonably cold weather in Texas. Or is Nevada? Are y'all having some colder weather up there?
We had snow, I think, last week.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's probably what we're feeling, but it's just not snow. By the time it gets down here, it's not quite snow.
Yeah.
Closer to the ocean. So I talked to my sister in Colorado today, and she said it was snowing today. So she was glad she put on her snow tires yesterday. So she's good to go. So let me share with the audience who our guests are today. And as people who listen to the show regularly know, I like to talk about whether I know or don't know my guests before we get started. So let me tell you how I met Kim Advent and Louise. So a couple weeks ago, Kim was Googling her business name. You guys get this. Her business name is Avanti Wellness. Is it also education on the end?
Okay. It's Avanti Wellness LLC, but the website is Avanti Wellness Education.
Okay. Yeah. She was Googling her own domain name, Avanti Wellness. If y'all think you've heard that name before, you have, because that's also my name. And she found my podcast, and which is actually a good sign, right? That my podcast came up. And she said she listened to it, and she was really curious because, first of all, as many of you know who listen to my show, Avanti is Italian, and it means moving forward or advancing. And I described that in my first episode of my podcast, and she heard that, and she was like, oh, that's why we named our business Avanti Wellness. And then I started talking about what my Avanti Wellness was all about and what it was going to be hoping to achieve. And she was like, oh my gosh, this is what we're doing. We're so similar in so many ways. And I'm focusing on personal health and wellness, both mind, body, and spirit. And so is Louise and Kim. And she was like, I need to meet this girl. So she reached out to me, and we instantly got on a Zoom call together and connected. And I offered to highlight what they're doing in their area of the country on the podcast. So we're going to talk about that today, because it is in alignment and it is synergistic with the kind of messages that I want to put out there in the world, so that people can find resources and help when they're looking for it. So how we're going to get started is I'm going to see if Kim and Louise will just basically kind of introduce themselves. Tell us maybe where you were born or where you're from, and, kind of what led you up to the point where you are today doing the work that you're doing. Then we're going to dive into what is the work that you are doing and how you're making the world a better place by helping others. So, Kim, do you want to go first and start sharing?
Yeah. Absolutely. Where was I born? I was born in Cleveland, Ohio. By the way, they were supposed to have snow there last night. So winter's everywhere across the country. I was born there a long time ago. So I have 4 adult children and I have 6 grandchildren. And we relocated in 2006 to Nevada, to Las Vegas, to reconnect with my family, who had moved from Cleveland, Ohio about 20 years prior. And probably 2 years after that is where I met Louise. And then we started talking about both of our work and how we see life. And there we connected with high ideas. So for me, it was pretty intriguing. I started Avanti Wellness LLC back in 2009. So I'm registered in the state of Nevada. And the goal for me, my previous career was in IT as an analyst, but my goal ultimately for me was to help people find solutions for whatever situation they were in, like happiness. I worked with both Eastern and Western types of doctors here in the States. Good people, great doctors, but I always felt there was this little link missing. And it really is to know yourself and to know your heart and your soul and have right ideas about yourself. And so the relationship with Louise brought that information to me. And in 2010, I went to research a little bit more outside the country. And we've worked and have expanded Avanti Wellness in the States, doing the educational plans for people that are seeking what we're going to talk about is the Raya Yoga that Louise has studied since he's 19.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that introduction. Now, Louise, it's your turn. Tell us where you're from and where you're going.
Well, I was born in Argentina. Half of my family was Italian and half Ukrainian. I have a mix, both countries.
Wow.
Yeah. Since I was a teenager, I was looking for answers. I was doing trips in the south of Argentina, in the Patagonia, and asking, I was in the mountain hiking and asking questions: who am I? What is my purpose of life? Always asking questions. Most of the time, I didn't get the answers until I connect with some people that they were doing philosophy, and which called Raya Yoga. And this, I was 17 when I was traveling a lot in South America. And 18 in 19, I got these ideas. And, all my life, since I was 17, 18, took me to the journey that I am here, no? I moved to the state in 2019, definitely.
Wow, recent.
Yeah, before I was in the state, but only to study English because I didn't speak one word,
Wow, you're doing so good.
Thank you. And in 2007, I was in Las Vegas studying in the community college. Study different assignment, not for the assignment, more to study English with Americans, because I want to learn directly with Americans. And I took philosophy 101, and just to see how Americans think about philosophy. And there was a class of probably 80, 100 people.
Wow.
And that class give me the clue that I can share these ideas in America. When the teacher, he was a PhD in philosophy, asked me since the second class explain the practical part of the philosophy while he was explaining the theoretical part, which he divided the class in two. He was giving one part and I was giving the second part. And everybody was very enthusiastic about understanding how the ideas can be applied in the practical life. Since that moment, I said, whoa, this is what I have to do in America, I saw the signal, and the reception of all the students that they love, even I didn't have any company, any things. I was only studying with them and I was teaching them. That gave me the clue that it was a new beginning for me. And I was lucky when I met Kim that she was passionate to help people, and these two things get together to, in order to help all Americans here,
Wow. And she already had Avanti Wellness, right? So when you heard that Avanti, were you like, oh my gosh, it's like Italian. It's like a match made in heaven.
Yeah. Have most of my culture is Italian. In Argentina,
Yeah, well, and you're half Italian, so I mean,
Yes.
it's so
My
perfect.
grandma,
Me
my
too.
grandpa, my grandpa was the Italian. His name
Mhm.
is Luis. That's why they put my name Luis for my grandpa. That's why I became Luis. That's why culturally I'm Italian, you know. Um, and well, when I came to America, they open my my life here because I see the opportunity, the reception, and how people were seeking. That was a big wow. Um, Regarding Raya Yoga, I want to introduce these ideas because uh, people doesn't hear so much about what is Raya Yoga, but Raya Yoga was created more than 5,000 years ago in India. I was introduced by a master called Patanjali. Was 5,000 years ago, but 150, I think 120 years ago, a Swami from India, Swami Vivekananda, went to Chicago and he introduced these ideas. He has a big monument in Chicago, and in Chicago is very well known, Vivekananda, that he tried to adjust or give to Americans what does it mean Raya Yoga. Raya Yoga, they have different names too. King of Yoga. Some people call the philosophical yoga or the practical yoga in real life, which means is all they call the science of thinking. Put the main attention in the brain. As we all know, we always talk about our mind, our emotion, and our body, the triangle. Every new age, every people always talk about this idea. What Raya Yoga is trying to help us, how the brain can command the emotion and the physical part. We are always in conflict because most of the time, as a human beings, the body or the emotion is commanding the brain. When this happens, we have psychological illness, anxiety, addiction, or anguish, or we develop some physical illness. That's why it's so crucial to develop the Raya Yoga in our life, because with that we can prevent a lot of illness. The happiness is kind of a consequence. You don't search for happiness. What you do is investigate yourself. I will give you an example, just to see how the brain and emotional works. Let's say, Lydia, you want to buy a car, and you said, "Oh, I deserve a car." What people would think about if I buy a car? This is the emotion commanding the brain.
Right. Or like a Mercedes,
Yeah,
something
like the Mercedes. What the people
something
will think about?
valuable.
What the people will think if I am driving the Mercedes?
Spend all this money on a car.
Well, yeah, that is can be the brain, because the brain say, okay, how much money I have? Can I spend that? I have to see. That is the brain thinking, okay, I have the money, I have this coming, I can afford it. Okay, I'm going to the dealership, I will ask all the questions and buy it. The emotion is saying, oh, maybe I don't deserve the Mercedes. What the neighbor will say if I have a Mercedes. What my sister will say if I have a Mercedes. That is the emotion. The emotion
Yeah.
commanding. I'm not giving a material thing but in life said, if you want a boyfriend or girlfriend, whoever the relationship too. I deserve to have this. I don't deserve to. The brain work in other way. If I want it, I work how to get it. That's why most of our life is a mix. You know, the brain acts in one moment and then the emotion acts in another moment.
It's
And
like
that,
the sabotager. The emotion can be the sabotager.
Yeah.
yeah, the emotion has to be to the service of the brain, which means when if the brain say I want to buy this car, the emotion say okay, I'm going put the passion to go to the dealership, even if I'm going to tell them I want this car, you know, but doesn't command. Should the brain command the negotiation in the dealership? In anything, I'm talking about this can be a career. You know, I want to become a lawyer. Oh, a lawyer. The people think bad about lawyer. This is the emotion again. You know, the brain said, okay, if I want to become a lawyer, what university I should go? What is the best? What is my budget? How can I get and get information? You know, and see how can I get that. In our life, we have thousands of things like that.
Decisions we have to make.
Decisions. We
And
said that at the same time.
and how to, you know, how approach that issue. We approach with the brain or with the physical body. Let's say I want that and somebody doesn't give me that, and the physical body can act and be violent and take that, the physical body, and said to the brain, I'm going to take it even I don't have the money, and I still people that in the criminal world, you know, the physical body is acting, not the brain. The brain act as is to the service of the physical body.
Does the Raja Yoga distinguish between like the frontal lobe versus the back part? Like, where is the brain being utilized for the logical decisions versus the emotional decisions? Does it talk about that at all, or does it distinguish that?
Yes, but it's not. It's more simple, the Raja Yoga. We can go in this direction to investigate all these things, but in general, it's about ideas, emotion, and actions. Because we have so many knowledge, we read so many books, but really, the main issue is if the ideas command the emotion, and if the emotion command the action. That's it.
I think it was, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think it's a really good question, Lydia, when you're asking like the clinical part, like the frontal lobe is the decision making and all of that. And, you know, we worked with a lot of people with mental health issues or addictions, and those things are, you know, not working well because the drug has overtaken them. But I think when Luis is talking about these like mystical, magical, spiritual ideas of Raja Yoga, this is where Avanti Wellness is able to, you know, encapsulate this and put it in practical sense to help with this kind of philosophical advice, how to change the thinking pattern so this works better. And that's why it goes so much deeper. It's like the core of your essence, your soul.
Yeah, and when y'all were describing it to me earlier in our conversation a couple of weeks ago, you described it as yoga for the brain, you know, like it's exercising and working with the brain. So I thought that was really fascinating. And so, Luis, you've identified that Raja Yoga is regarding, you know, decision making, the process of decision making. Who's making the decision? Is your brain making the decision, or is your emotion making the decision? So let's take that to a practical conversation where people struggle, you know, not just about buying a car, but let's take it deeper to when people struggle with major decisions like, you know, Kim, you were talking about y'all work with people who are feeling very devastated. You know, their lives are a big mess. And, you know, you're dealing with people who feel like ending it all, or, are totally addicted to their drugs. I mean, let's talk about how Raja Yoga helps those suffering, because I think that's where the real meat is, the nugget is for this podcast, because we're only going to go for 30 minutes. So let's go into like some of the stuff that people really can hook onto and know that it can help them.
Well, I think that's where the Avanti Wellness piece, education piece is taking the superior thinking of this. Like I said, call it what you want, if it's spiritual, magical, mystical, but it's ingrained in us, all of us, that we can have access to this essence of who we are. So by implementing it in educational plans, and regardless of who the person or the corporation or entity that's coming to us with any kind of problem, like we were talking, as you said, a couple of weeks ago, when we have people struggling with any kind of anguish, and it could be loneliness, something that we don't always tag in society, but that's a huge one. Loneliness, the anguishes that we all are experiencing because the world is rapidly changing.
But it's about perspective. I will do an analogy to understand when somebody is suffering and how to overcome this suffering. When we introduce ideas of Raja Yoga, a lot of ideas, and observe and process, what is happening is the following. Let's see that, Lydia, in where you are in your living room. Let's say you think your life is your living room. What happens if I tell you the state of Texas is your life? It's not only that room. We're going to accompany to every city in Texas and to go, and it's you, it's not me. I take you to every city in Texas and see the things. Then you say, wow, it's not this room. Who am I? I'm the state of Texas. When you start to think in that way, through ideas, processing, observing, all the anguish, all the pain start to dilute, because I have the state of Texas and I'm no longer this room. That is what provoke these ideas.
Yeah, we're not confined to the small space that we think we're confined to, that we're actually more expansive than that. And actually, it's a lot. When you really understand who you are, we are all connected and we're all part of the universe.
And that's I think, so important, the expansion. But you have to have somebody that knows that expansion. Because if you're always in your room and you're comfortable there, but the pain, it's like heavy, and you would like to investigate and explore your world inside of you, but it's a big step. So who helps you? You need people that have done it for themselves. Like Louis said, he's been doing this since age 17. So the ability to be able to say, easily, I could see where the expansion is all of Texas for you, but it's scary. So let me show you how to do that while you're making new decisions and new discoveries. So that's the practical piece. So like when we do our work, it's very interconnected. You're not just like reading a book and then it's done. The interaction between whoever the advisor is with our client is consistent. And then there's always that follow-up and how the reaction is, what you've gained.
Again, the perspective. Let's say you have something in your living room. Let's say a table there. Let's say the table represents some part of your pain, which is close to you, which is big in the room. But if you have the state of Texas, it's nothing, the table. Because you can go to Dallas and say, where is the pain? Where is the pain in Houston? I don't see that. This is the way that Raja Yoga works to develop in thinking, not in something idealistic, top, real thing to process, to observe, and is not no drugs, is thinking. The brain is so powerful that can heal anything.
Right. You're like a guide who can help me change my reality just by the way I perceive it. Right.
Because
But you need help. Yeah. Like you were saying, you need help with someone who can help guide you through the process of changing your reality. Because when you're in it, you're stuck. Right.
Yes, because that table is always going to exist in the state of Texas. And you, as the person in the room, most people, this is how we work. We go, but it's still there. It's still there. Yeah, it's still there. But like Louise said, you almost give it no more power, because now it's so vast that your new experiences have higher quality of life for you, that it's there, but it doesn't control me anymore. It's powerless. But you need the advice, and you need someone to help you get to that point. Because most of us will go boomerang right back and say, but I'm still really this. Because we have to break that thinking.
There is I think it's Confucius, or Lao Tzu. I don't remember what Chinese philosopher said that the lake of pain is the ignorance about ourselves. When we know more ourselves, less pain. That is the way that we work, to know yourself. Of course, you have to have somebody like me or somebody else that work with themselves for many years to see the process, how to
navigate. How to guide and navigate you.
It's not easy, because we live in a society, we are not alone, and we bump with many people that can distract us from doing something good. That's how we have to observe everything that is around us, and how to continue our search of ourselves. It's very difficult, because if I go to the street now and I'm talking like this to anybody, maybe I will have rejection, because some people doesn't want to knowing themselves. I will help the people that want to knowing themselves, or it's not the moment for that person. That's why we have to navigate, like you said, helping to navigate and to become the person that you should be.
Yeah. Is there a title that y'all call yourselves? Like, do you call yourselves coaches or therapists, or like, what do you call yourselves when you're describing who you are to someone else, just a passerby?
Yeah, practical philosophical advisor.
Advisors. Okay, you're considered advisors. Okay. So I used to always, you took philosophy, so you may remember this quote, but what is that quote that is something about, know thyself? It's a philosopher who says, know thyself. There's like a quote about it.
To know thyself is to know everything, something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Something that I think.
When y'all were talking, that came to mind. The other thing I wanted to mention is, as I was going through, I think one of the things that Kim hooked on when she heard my first episode of my podcast is I shared a little bit about some things that I had gone through and some tragedies that I'd experienced that kind of woke me up and made me be more of a seeker, to turn from what I'd grown up being taught to what kind of I was led. You're like a magnet, you start being led in a direction that feels right and guided, and that you're interested in. And I just encourage anyone who's feeling that tug to search for more, seek more, ask the questions. I do recommend that they find, especially if they're out there and they don't have any of their friends doing this, which is so common. That was totally my experience, that I just didn't have my own group of people near me that were doing this. I mean, in your case, Louise, you said your mom was already doing this. So you had someone to ask questions to, and you knew how to go being guided. But my parents were not doing any of the type of investigating that I was doing. In fact, they were in their, own religion, doing their own, practices. And so when you do find yourself being alone, trying to navigate those questions, it really is helpful to find someone who, and this is the analogy I used to tell people, is would you rather go down the Amazon River with a professor who learned about it from reading it in a book with a with a degree in, philosophy, or would you like to go down the Amazon with someone who's a tour guide and has been down the Amazon multiple times? You want someone who's experienced it, not someone who's conceptualized it because they read about how to help people in a book. This is how you're a good listener, and this is how you're this and that. You really want someone who's been down the river. And so find people in your life who are teachers, advisors, coaches, whatever you want to call them. Just make sure that, they've been down that river before you even hire them, so that you too can be guided in a direction of, much wisdom and knowledge, right? And you've been doing this for over 35 years or so, right?
Yeah. Time is gold, and the experience, to have your own experience, can be very expensive. That's why I prefer not to have so many experience.
If we could only choose, right? Yeah. Actually, you know what, Louise and Kim, we can, which is part of your brain making the decisions and not your emotions making the decisions, right? You can have less painful experiences when your brain's activated and staying engaged with the decision-making process, right? When we make decisions based on our ego or our insecurities, then we make decisions that don't always end up as we imagined them to end up, right? And maybe not so much the way we wanted them to end up, right?
But this is like the voices inside, it's the emotion talking. I should go, the brain is very logical. He, talk and doesn't suffer, the emotion is suffering. What happened?
Yeah, I got to try it and figure it out myself. But somebody else is wiser and can see the outcome faster. Say, well, you can, you have free will, but I'm recommending you don't.
Yeah, or maybe not even that you don't, but here are the two outcomes if you do. Like, do you want this to end up in this? Yeah, absolutely.
You can see in TV, in the sport, when the team is losing and somebody from the team that is losing say like this, think, because the team is getting the emotion and they're going to lose, and the leader say, or the coach of the team said, think, which means it's the same thing. They are trying to move the team to think because they're good, but the emotion is taking down the whole team.
We won't name the name of the famous football player. I know who he's talking about. He won many Super Bowls. He came out of retirement recently, and he's divorced now. But now you can see the emotions commanding his game. Before, he was on top of the world because that was where his brain could work and that was where his passion was. Now the emotion is talking. So the brain can't hear, the body can't hear, so he's not doing as well. So it's like sad for him, but we're watching it in real life for someone that people respect and admire. But that's a classic example of how brain, emotion, and body are all connected and what your choices and your experiences can do to prevent or change outcomes.
Right. Yeah. When your brain's operating, making the decisions, you could be the greatest of all times. You can be a goat. So, okay. So there's so much, I'm sure, that we could go on and on and on, and maybe we'll have you back as a guest and we'll talk about different topics, but I want to kind of wrap up, and I want people to understand how they can get in touch with you if they find resonance with the conversation, and if they're curious and maybe they're looking for an advisor or looking for someone to talk to. You're doing things globally. I guess you have Zoom and you do your meetings on Zoom. You do your consultations on Zoom, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so why don't y'all tell the audience how they can find you, where they can go, how they can get in touch with you.
You can contact me directly. It's Kim Advent, and the cell phone number is 702-540-2139, or you can reach out to me via email, which is my name, kimadvent@gmail.com. We have a website. It's kind of going into a little bit of reconstruction, but it's still up and you can see a little bit. It's Avanti Wellness Education.net. So that's important to know the .net part. But we're happy to, especially the holiday season's coming, a lot of different kind of anxieties start to come out. 15 minutes, we can offer a free consultation. And if this is meant for you, we can discuss, different options if someone's interested in learning about Raya Yoga and the practical application to your life.
Awesome. Can you just, Kim, share a little bit of if you're suffering with some of the areas that y'all have expertise in, so that if anyone connects with, she understands, they understand that, okay, maybe I should call them. So rattle off a few things that you have expertise in so they'll know.
Yeah, absolutely. Any type of addiction. We've worked a lot with addiction, and we have totally different types of outcomes that are so important and different in the community that they're being recognized. Stresses, emotional stresses, anxiety, those kinds of things. Like I said, people are people first. We're in our brains thinking, our hearts are always feeling something. So what it looks like, is it loneliness? Is it a desire to achieve a relationship? Is it a desire to change the way the business model's going? Because people are people. What does our life look like? So when you can take practical ideas and have practical goals, you're going to go towards that. Like people with addiction, they had a goal to stop. But what we've worked with people that with the addictions, they go beyond just being in recovery. It's so important, the work that we've done with people in the past for that. We're very proud of that, to give them another step in a different direction.
Just to put an attention, when people are starting with some medical issues, we like that the person work with some doctors. It's not like we are against the doctors. We like that the people have their own doctors. We help in the philosophical part.
In the practical piece of your life, the why you started, what needs to change, and how to, obtain that change permanently. So that again, it goes across the board with whatever your end goal is. We teach attorneys around the country. We're accredited by different states. So we teach on the wellness piece that is very important for attorneys. We work in corporations, human resources is really important. So many people are internally battling in their businesses. It's sad, the few people that are willing to work, they go in and they're kind of struggling how to get along with each other, So there's so many ways to make this apply to who or what you need.
Yeah. And did you hear the other day, I saw an article off of LinkedIn that so many layoffs right now are happening. And so that's a really scary thing for a lot of people. And that's going to be the brain versus emotion type of thinking through, because when you're laid off, it's all emotional until you realize their decision was not personal. Their decision was about their business. Yeah. And it's about how much money do we have coming in to pay our employees. Like
Yeah.
people don't think about that.
And
yeah,
the-
and
and
the
it's
physical,
fearful
I will say the
for
physical
them.
body, when somebody is laid off, the physical body start to feel like I will not have food.
The fear.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
fear,
So survival.
survival, and then if the brain doesn't work, and if the physical body is
Oh, when you're
fatigued,
in fight or flight.
Mhm.
yeah, will create more problem. The violence is coming.
Yeah.
You know,
The violence towards the
Oh
Oreo
shit.
cookies.
The violence is coming.
Oh, the Oreo cookies.
You better call Kim and Louise fast.
yeah, that's why we are such in a world with so much violence. Is the body's commanding the emotion and the brain. That's why it's so much violence now. Everybody a discussion in a supermarket and they got,
because they need an outlet somewhere, and you're a stranger, or even on on the internet, people remark things that are like, really? People need outlets, but those are not going to provide good outcomes for you ultimately. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a complicated world, but you know what? We have to have hope, and we met. So Lydia is a little, angel from above, Avanti Wellness. Can't be more connected than that.
Don't forget to subscribe. For more great episodes like this one, please hit the subscribe button. No, absolutely. Well, this was great. I hope y'all have a wonderful upcoming holiday season, because we have a big holiday season coming up. And, definitely, I was thinking we could come back and just talk about like concepts of, our own sense, how people are being told their freedom is going to be taken away. So then we go storm the Capitol.
Right.
It's like that is an example of people feeling totally enraged and needing to lash out did you really need to destroy a monument, in that day? You know what I mean? It's just like, okay, that was emotional thinking and survival thinking and not logical brain thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
exactly.
And you pretty much can guarantee there was not a good outcome that was going to come out of that with the intention behind it, right? The intention was for something very destructive.
But this is
low.
this is the physical body and emotion commanding. That's you can see in action, and with these contagious with other people, the same thing.
I know. But we're experiencing it at national level and even a global level with, you said you were from your people are from the Ukraine. The Ukraine's on a global scale right now, such a little country or a big country, but now it's, has such a big, important role in potentially causing great, strife with the fight with Russia, and then the US is getting involved. There's so much going on out there but what do we want to do? We want to focus on ourselves, because this is all you can control is right here. And so that's where your services come in, is to help you rein in all this big issues, to go focus back on what can you do today to help your life feel better, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, good. Do y'all have anything else you want to say before we say goodbye?
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Be grateful for all the good blessings that we get.
Yes, gratitude and appreciation is one of the aspects of changing the way you think, right?
Exactly.
And what you focus on. So it's a great time of year. What a great segue for you to mention that. And we'll say goodbye for now. And then I'll see y'all in a second.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.